that whether you lived in the subcontinent or not, you said, that story's about me. Or you see a flash of her own tragic life, and parts of that you might relate to. I wouldn't say we're all disparate people on the panel, which I'd like to introduce now, but I think one of the reasons why we're here, one of the reasons why Sadia's making this film, and one of the reasons why you have an interest in this, is because occasionally the mathematics does not work. We run around all our lives making 2 + 2 = 4. And then what happens when it actually totals 5 or 6, in case of Bapsi, where there's this unknown portion. And here we are all meant to figure out what that unknown portion is and get you excited about it as much as we are. I'll just go in order, if I may. Gordon, Quan, say a few words about yourself and perhaps why you are part of this situation. And then one other corollary question I'll just go through. I asked them to pre-select a phrase or a sentence from Bapsi's writing that most compels them to think beyond. Anyway, Gordon, Quan.
Well, thank you for asking me to serve on this panel. As many of the Pakistani community know, I've been very close to this community, and I really appreciate the contributions they've made. I've had a chance to meet Bapsi early on, and I know her family, I know Rose, I know great work that the Zoroastrian community has given to our city. So I got involved because I felt like this is a treasure that needs to be shared with other people. Many people don't know Bapsi, but yet she's of international acclaim. And I think this film would begin to show that. And also that she picked Houston as her home to be. And we have many outstanding Houstons. We pride ourselves on a diverse city, but the stories of these individuals are often not told. So when I was approached by this, I saw the film last year at the festival, and I was asked to get involved. I said, this is something I definitely need our community to be involved in, whether it be Pakistani or the general community. So that's how I got involved.
Hello, my name is Aban Rustomji. I'm a long-time Houston person. I grew up in Lahore. I went to Connecticut. I am a Zoroastrian. All 3 factors that were related to Bapsi. And yet, I never met Bapsi till I came to Houston in the late 70s. And the moment I met her, I was just struck by her warmth, by her wit, and her personality. And we just bonded and we became friends. And that friendship, to me, today is like a personal tribute to her. So I'm very happy to be on this panel. And I also know Sadia for a long time too. And Sadia will tell you how we met. So this is a personal tribute, a big joy, and thank you for asking me to be on the panel.
I'll come around for your quotes. I haven't forgotten.
Thank you so much for having me on this panel, Sadia. And my name is Nighat Shah, and I am a film producer. I'm happy to say at the end that I'm a film producer. I think I'm the only person on this panel who has not met with Bapsi in person. I am moved by her legacy, her writing. She wrote beautifully decades ago about diversity, when diversity was not a buzzword. That is something that has really moved me to be a part of this film. She talked about, she brought marginalized stories to forefront so beautifully with humor and with so truthfulness. That's why I'm part of this panel and this project. And if you are still, you think I should go ahead and tell you which one of the
Yes, please. I'll come back
to So, you both suggested that I should read Cracking India. I read the book, And there's this, not a very favorite quote, but there's this moment when this the child narrator, Lenny, realizes that not even the love of her parents or the care of her ayah and also the prayers of her godmother have the ability to protect her from what's happening around her. I mean, she says that she lost her innocence not through her own actions, but by seeing what's going around her. So I feel like it's so relevant today. There is so much going on in and around our cities. Like there is so much forced displacement and rising polarity, and young children and also the vulnerable communities are still carrying the weight of seeing these things. So we as filmmakers, like, I know like in Bapsi's work, it was like that, it's still the same. I feel like as storytellers, we have the profound responsibility to tell the truth, not the kind of the polarized version or the propagandist version, but the human and nuanced truth. And this is my takeaway from all what Bapsi is, and she's so stern. She says things beautifully and with humor that I loved about her.
Sadia.
Yeah, so I was looking for answers as a woman, as a creative, as a mother, a daughter, a partner, and an artist. And I knew of one Bapsi Sidhwa who had done it all despite being a creative in a woman's body. And above all, she had found her gift and managed to survive, not only survive, but thrive. This was why I went to Bapsi's story to unravel. How did she do it, Sadia? Let's learn. The other reason I went to Bapsi's story is I have been in love with the Zoroastrian community since I was 4 years of age. And it was my love letter and my monument to a community that is seldom seen. And the idea of their excellence, I wanted to unquote that. I wanted to break that code. Third is, I was tired of names that did not belong to us in the mainstream media. I want to have a voice and I did not want to feel erased. And I know this is what Bapsi did when I was 4 years of age, and this is what Bapsi did till last year. So this is why I went on this journey, which began in 2016, and it will end when it will end. My favorite quote is, do not be scared of rejection.
There's a lot to think about in there, unpacking from the director herself. My name is Zane Dalal. She asked me to be on the board of Explore Their Stories, which was the umbrella organization, if you like, of finding stories of the human achievement throughout the world and disseminating them, archiving them, and making sure people that wouldn't normally hear these stories hear them, with the effect that a world, as has been mentioned, that is getting more divisive and a little bit less tolerant of one another, might find common ground. I can't imagine a better course to be involved with. But the issue with Bapsi herself, once I came to know, my family knew Bapsi. She writes, and there's parts of her recollections involve my mother and her sisters in Karachi. I am a member of the Zoroastrian community. I can't yet think what the fuss is about. Because, yes, it is true, we did some interesting things, but that was in the turn of the last century. What have we done recently? And this is one such project that really is universal. If you can imagine what the power of women has been in your lives, and whether we are compelled to stand up about it or just shocked and appalled by what is going on when we don't stand up and talk about it, especially in the subcontinent, and we can't sugarcoat things. That's why I got involved, because the story is not about Bapsi, though it is. The story is about her universal message to all of us to get on with it. And just because she has passed, this film, I hope, will be the megaphone to continue. Because anytime you come across the injustice, especially of negating women's voices, you can imagine what it's like to go around your dining table and see perhaps your daughter, perhaps your sister, perhaps your mother, perhaps your wife, and then have that voice completely negated from your life. Imagine what that would be like. And that's what this film stands for, and that's what Bapsi stands for to me, and this is why I've got very passionately involved with it. If I may go back and ask your quotation, if you have one.
Zane, when you said that to me, it was such a challenge, because each of Bapsi's books have so much intertwined stuff.
Yes.
But I remember asking Bapsi, which one book of yours is your favorite? And she said, The Bride. And that was my favorite too. So I had to go look up the one little quote that really, and I have to just read it to you all. I still tear up when I read that quotation. She felt like a ghost in her own life, watching it unfold and no power to shape. And it is not about the protagonist, Zaitun. It is not about her life. It is about the patriarchy. It is about women that are silent, that have no voice. And how beautifully and how evocative this line is. And you ask yourself, who is the writer? Whose life is it? And who is leading it? And to me, that is what Bapsi stands for. So I have other
Thank you very much. Beautifully done.
Well, I'm going to follow Sadia's lead earlier. And I think the story is a universal story, whether you're South Asian or whether you're Chinese. I mean, just the diaspora of our communities as we go into different countries. I mean, I was born in China, and we were torn by the communists coming to China, and whether we live in Taiwan or Hong Kong, and how we adapt to a life in America. And I felt like these are common things that Bapsi was seeing herself, and that could go beyond just her own experience, but could be shared by other people from other nationalities as well. So I like that, do not be afraid. And because I think that we often are intimidated in a new country. We think we're strangers here, but we're not. But we can't be afraid. We need to have the courage to adapt and to take our role in society. So I think this is what I feel really moving about Bapsi's work.
Thank you very much. It's, as you will see as we continue in this panel, and any of the discussion or any of the reading that you've done on your own, or hopefully will do if you haven't, will lead you to understand what we all do. This extraordinary life of a lady who, against all the odds, proved that she had the power not only to raise herself out of where she was, but in her words and her legacy, raise countless women, and even those yet to be born, out of that misery that might come. The quotation that stands out to me the most, which wasn't mentioned, I was going to wait and see if it was mentioned, was a very short one, but it's something that is so incredibly profound. All wars are fought upon a woman's body. And it's an extraordinary phrase, because it goes in so many different directions, but brings you back to the same point. It's because of this, because of writing like that, that you can perhaps imagine that Sadia, a polio sufferer, set aside as if she was not going to be consequential, ends up showing a mirror to all of us as to what the possibilities are, divorcing her husband at a time when gosh, when did that happen? We were just being introduced to the James Bond swagger in Dr. No and You Only Live Twice, and everybody was taking that on as a matter of how to behave. And here's Bapsi saying, no, I'm going to divorce you if I don't get what I'm... What kind of strength and courage did that take in the 60s, in 61, 62? It's an extraordinary life. And what are we left with? Not the misogyny of the first 3 Bond films, but the legacy of what actually is important. And this is, I think, what we'll come back to again and again. I prepared some questions, we all did together, hopefully just to unlock some of these things for you. I think we did the introductions and what compels them to this message. The next question is for Sadia, and I'll help you with this if you don't have it, is the trust established between you and Bapsi, where she is this extraordinary storyteller, and she's entrusted Sadia with the job of being her storyteller through film. And how does that trust develop, and what is it that you can tell us that makes you have her imprimatur, if you like?
Thank you so much, and this is actually an extremely important component of making documentary film, where Bapsi, or any protagonist that we're working with, the relationship is extremely intimate, but it has to have the boundaries of professionalism in and out. And these are really long filming days. You know, we would begin at very early in the morning and end like 11:30 when I would be rolling everything up. And especially for someone so astute like Bapsi Sidhwa. She sees through you, right? And a story which was maybe 84 years long. How to unravel it, how to open those locks, so professionalism, patience, you just cannot push it. Patience, patience, and patience. And the last piece is, which was extremely important between Bapsi and I, was we found our camaraderie as 2 creatives. And sometimes you don't, when we are all here as creative people, we don't have to say that to each other, but it's through osmosis that we understand. And I slowly began to have her trust to make her feel that her stories are most important. And 2, it took maybe about 3 years and 6 trips from Chicago to Houston for her to unravel some of the secrets of her life with me. She had it, and then 3 years later she said, okay, with her caregiver, bring out that box from my inside closet. Let's take those stories, photographs out. But I would just say, it's when between Bapsi and I, the camera started to melt away. And it was this bond. It didn't matter if she was Zoroastrian and I was not a Zoroastrian. It did not matter if I didn't speak Gujarati. It did not matter that I was not from Houston or her family. And she would protect me all the time. She was my really true best friend. But the idea of professionalism and that boundary, and she really respected that.
Thank you, Sadia. It's, from my perspective, I didn't just come on to the whole thing because of Bapsi's story, though that was compelling enough. It is probably also that there was one South Asian firebrand speaking to another South Asian firebrand, and she doesn't talk about herself as well as she should. And those of you who know her know that there's something passionate and deep and important in her storytelling too. And I think that's why both of them had this level of trust between each other. There's my 2 cents. We can go to the next question. I'm aware of timing. For Nighat and Gordon to join me on this question, is there anything you can talk about in terms of financing and fundraising, specifically that you could bring in for all the people who are looking to find money how you find money, what you might go about doing, because I know that's probably the beginning and the end of everything when we think about how to get a film across the finish line. And I'll join in on ladies.
So, fundraising is difficult for these type of films, especially for films that are about South Asian people in general, and in particular about South Asian women, because there is this misconception that these type of films don't make money, or they do not follow the proper trend, kind of, unless they circle around trauma. This is in itself difficult, but the thing is, you just, like Sadia said, not only building trust with the people, like the protagonist, Bapsi Sidhwa, but also the trust that comes from people who are funding the project. That's very important, because at the end of the day, we have to find our own crowd. Like, I found Mr. Quan, let's say, and things like that. And then you can take it, and it's not about only the money that you raise, or you will be able to kind of profit off of these type of films. It's people who fund these films are the ones who see beyond the effect of the screen. Like, it has to go like far beyond the legacy. They have to see what is like, they have to believe in the long-lasting legacy of these type of stories. Though they are your people.
So I don't think a lot of people know, my younger brother, Rick Quan, is actually a newscaster and does documentaries as well. And his goal is to tell the stories of the Asian community in unusual fields. He's done stories about race car drivers are Asian, dancers are Asian, and to break the stereotypes of who we are, that we're not just doctors or engineers, but that we are people who have our own history. But it takes people who have that shared vision to really raise the money to do these documentaries and do these films. And when I was reaching out to people here in Houston, I felt there was a lot of love from people who say, Bapsi Sidhwa, I know her very well. Oh, she's a dear person. Oh, yes. I talked to Fareed, her brother, first of all, to make sure that the family was completely behind it, because I want to make sure that this film represents what the family would want of Bapsi. And Fred said, yes, I'm completely behind it. I visited the Zoroastrian Center, and you know, in their library, there's a section dedicated just to Bapsi's work. And that this is somebody who's very dear to the community. So in raising money, reaching out to people who can share that vision that this is an important person, then it's worth telling the story, and I want to be a part of it. I think that's the thing I'm looking for.
I'm delighted with both those answers, because as you see, that there's nothing technical about the money side of it. Because if you get involved in the technical money side of it, you will not make any. Important thing with these things, with your projects going on, is perhaps not even to mention money. You must be compassionate about what it is that you're doing, and let the story speak for itself. So the story actually is the power, the fact that we have to complete this in the moment after Bapsi's gone, and how important it is to have this hot iron remain hot. Is in itself a catalyst to the fundraising, and finding your right story is how you coalesce around the right team, and then finding the right team members falls in place because you have the right story. It all comes from this subject matter, and we're, I think, delighted to have Bapsi as a subject. The next question is really for Aban. As a trusted member of the Zoroastrian community, as a long-time friend of Bapsi, speak a bit about that relationship and how important it was to get this archive at Rice and the scholarships and the awards.
I will, thank you. But I wanted to touch up on the funding part of it, because Bapsi was ever so keen that she should see this film while she was alive. And it's always a little bit of a disappointment, and not on Sadia's part, because she has worked so hard on it. So I think funding is very important, and funding doesn't have to be in big chunks. Funding can be in smaller amounts. I think each one can go around spreading the word, but I'm going to defer to that a little later on, and I'm going to talk about Bapsi, what you wanted to ask me to do. There are two aspects that I want to bring to your fold, if you don't know about it. One was that we, the Zoroastrians, the Zoroastrian Association of Houston and Fazana, that's the organization that's in North America, we decided that we would start a Bapsi Sidhwa Literary Prize. And an annual, yes, it sounds wonderful, and it is wonderful, and this is the second year that we gave it to a budding author, a Zoroastrian author, a budding author who followed the lines of Bapsi's work. And what she did was she wrote about a story. It's a fiction story, and we have criteria, and we've got wonderful judges. And what she did was she quickly, on the cover of a book, which is now in paperback, she put the decal that we have of Bapsi's image. And I think that's a huge, big thing. And Bapsi is very, and I showed her the little decal when we were doing that. She's very, very excited about that. So that is one thing. And Bapsi always wanted it to be for South Asian authors. And I said, Bapsi, we've got to start small. We've got to have a little bit more money. We eventually will do it, but right now it is what it is. The second piece that I wanted to share with you was she was looking for a place where all her archival materials would be kept. And she said, should I give it to Columbia? Should I give it to places that she had taught? And I said, Bapsi, you're here in Houston. We have Woodson Archives. We have Rice University. And bing, the coin dropped. And she said, get me somebody that can do work with me. So I went to Amanda Falke, the librarian of Woodson Archives, and we worked on it together, the three of us, Sadia and Teresa Russo, the editor of our book. And we got all those piles together, and we worked hard. And should we include this? Should we not include this? And the long story, to make it short, whatever was given to Rice, she kept a whole big file and she handed it to me. And she said, you are the trustee of this. And I said, I'm not. Rice University's got it. They've got it all legalized, and her brother's there. But I do have that file. She had that trust, and I still have that. So these are the two things I wanted to share with you.
Thank you. Again, what you see in stories like this are not just the plain facts of the question or the answers, but the relationship that Bapsi compelled with the people that she met, and the relationships that, if you're thinking now about Bapsi, just out of the blue, it seems to be more of a connection than just recalling a person. It seems that there's something more. This element of 2 + 2 = 6 is something I can't get out of my head since I've been thinking about it, because there is this great thing about creative things that where you're aware that something is greater than the sum of its parts. You're not quite sure where to look for that elusive extra that is definitely there. I would rather let the panelists talk. The next question is directed to me, but I'm going to open it up for the panel as well. What do you hope that audiences will take away from this film? And in that respect, what they might find about Bapsi Sidhwa that they did not know. I'll just briefly say what I said before. This story is not only all her writing, but this story about her through Sadia is not really, it obviously is about Bapsi, but it can go to such a universal level. The fighting against injustice, the fighting against children and young girls who are marginalized wherever they might be, the fighting of, not in our Western terminology, to have women have an equal voice. We're talking about people to have a voice at all, and it's something quite different. And so that you can just stack up and stack up and stack up each little section of this, that is actually not a little section at all. Each of them are monumental parts that can go in every direction. So the legacy and the story and the solutions are not insular, they're not Zoroastrian, they're not subcontinent, they are universal, they are world elements that need to be sorted out. I don't know if you all can add to that, the legacy of what you expect audiences to take away. Sadia, what is your take on what you like the audiences?
Yeah, well, Bapsi is writing her art herself, but most of all, the gift of the idea of finding our own good. That is the legacy that Bapsi leaves for us. And looking at her film and the idea of this, I don't want to, spoiler alert, I don't want to give the film away, but from where she was when she was a 2-year-old to what she became, what is the secret to that? There are hundreds and thousands of her readers waiting for this film. But for me as a director, my passion and my job is to make the film in a way where this mother, writer, woman, artist connects humanly to those who have never heard this name, and after seeing this film will become devout followers.
Thank you, Sadia. The next question is also to me, but I think I have to say it's a personal. When did I meet Bapsi, and what was that experience like? And what was her reaction to this film? It's a good question because we were trying to get this film done in her lifetime, but I had the great privilege of meeting her last year when we came to Houston. And this is how it went, really. I was very interested in meeting her because I knew I was involved in a project that I didn't know. I knew had a huge scope. I didn't know and wasn't going to put a boundary on that scope, but I knew I was involved. I was hooked into the idea of what it means. And to meet, the subject, if you like, was a bit of an apprehension for me. She was obviously last year old and infirm and had many issues. And I walked into a room, a sitting room, small sitting room in there, and the bed was in the middle. And she was lying in bed, even motionless and not talking, but alive. There was no question about that. And we had some small talk. We were introduced, I was introduced, and I had this message, not this message, but this infection from Firoz, who had met us there, that, well, she's not quite there, and she's, you may have to repeat this, that, and the other. None of it. I mean, maybe it is hard to look after someone who's old and infirm, and perhaps sometimes they give the impression of not being sharp. That might have been there for a little bit, to say, oh, she's an old lady, speak up, do this, do that. And then she watched 15 minutes, I think, the longest version we had of this film. And there was no question that she was as sharp as she ever has been, that she was absolutely brought out of whatever shell she might have been in that moment when I first met her. By watching this film, tears started rolling down her eyes. And she started reliving those experiences through Sadia's film. And I'm not making this up, this is something that was so remarkable to me, that the little that she saw of this, she was like, yes, that's exactly what it was like. And yes, and she was commenting on the film because it was transporting her back to her real life way back when. And it is a chronology in that respect. So the reason why I think it's important to mention that is just not because it was my first time meeting her, because it's an imprimatur for this film from her, that she not only agreed with the direction it was going in, but had something very valuable to contribute that in my mind brought her out of wherever she was prior. And so we're definitely on the right track. And I wanted to share that publicly, so I'm grateful for the question. This is based on the quote that Sadia recalled Yes, if there are any questions from all of you, just get them to me somehow. Scribble them down and get them to me while we ask these. And we're at the last. We're on the last part. We'll take it together. What do you think generally her legacy might be, and particularly, Sadia, your quote about rejection. How does one face rejection? Because in your projects, no matter where you are, whatever you're doing in life, even if you become Pope or the President of the United States, there has been rejection in your life at some point. How does one deal with that? What is the...
we are filmmakers here, and we know rejection really well. I'm also an economist, and I believe in the multiplier effect of a no. A no means 100 times apply again, right? Never take a no for a no. I always think of myself as a space shuttle. Urdu mein kehte hain na chaan gaadi, right? So when I took off the first 3 or 4 years of our project, any project, especially dogs, they take time, right? We will apply, we will shoot in every direction. We have that force, that inertia to take no's. But at this stage, which is late production, early post, we become extremely strategic. The dollars have gone down, and there is no funding coming in. The no's are as big as ever before, but we have to be strategic of where we are applying and who we are asking or bringing the project to. So a no means 100 times applying more, because every time I get a no, I'm closer to that yes.
And you know, when it's the institutions that say no, it's the public that says yes. And this festival is a testament of that when you all show up, this is the bloodline for festivals, films, projects, documentaries, and everything.
Absolutely, that's why we are here.
In your processes, when you have a rejection, also remember that you have a point of view, and the person saying no has a point of view, but it depends on how much you believe in your point of view. And everybody gets knocked down. That is not the measure of life. How you stand up again is the measure of life and character. So no does not mean no, of course. Just flip it around, it means on.
I think to do this panel at this festival was a special thing for us. Bapsi is not just Pakistani, not just Parsi, she was a Estonian also. And I remember back in 2012, March 2012, when Bapsi attended one of our बच्चों की उर्दू कहानी, और Bapsi ने सबको अमेज कर दिया. बच्चों ने वो बैठ के आराम से सुनी, पाकिस्तानी काउंसलेट के अंदर, ठीक है ना. और उस दिन के बाद से जो इंडस आर्ट्स काउंसिल का रिश्ता हो गया Bapsi के साथ, और फिर 2017 में सादिया की documentary. So what I'm trying to say in a way is that आप सब देख सकते हैं, these are the last year's winners in Run Film Festival, right? So, or Sadia has been one of those key people that helped Run Film Festival kick off. It was literally Sadia, Yusuf, Kamran, Farhan Tahir, right? In this room, Run was born. In this gallery at the Met, Run was born. So I think to help her with the finish line, Houston is the place to help this movie go to the finish line, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's places like Run Film Festival where there is a forum for us to feel normal, because we are with people who understand what we are all about.
Very quickly, our last thoughts in order.
This is not just a documentary film, it's a catalyst. Bapsi is a storyteller that's iconic, we all know that. But she is the first South Asian woman writer, and we need to celebrate that. We need that to be her legacy. She's the first one that put marginalized women, children, people out there. She's the first one that talked about colonialism. We need to put that out there. Along with her wit and her humor, her storytelling is about you and me, and we are seen. And that is her legacy, and that's why we need to succeed.
And if I could just add real quick, thank you. I think oftentimes we see a person and we see them later in life and we fail to recognize their accomplishments. I mean, she was a pioneer in what she did. The New York Times said she was the greatest Pakistani writer of all times. The London newspapers also proclaimed it. But who was Bapsi? And this is what the story is about. Who was this amazing woman? And putting life to that, not a woman in her decline or her old age, but the woman who was able to write these stories and the experience she had. And so that people who live in our times get to see how she developed in her time. So that's what I'm hoping that we get from this movie, and that we get to see what made Bapsi Sidhwa the woman she is.
It's beautiful what you said, Mr. Quan. What made Bapsi Sidhwa? I feel like I wish people know that how radical she was, not loud, but radical in a quietly unflinching way. And she said some of the things that people cannot imagine saying, but she used her wit, her humor, and also very gently she told the truth. That's her legacy, I believe.
Were there any questions from you? I would leave it at that. Three very eloquent witnesses. Yes. Why don't you say now?
Sure.
Then I'll take it.
Oh, just very curious, given how well you've gotten to know her through this process, even as a pioneer in her space. I think all the artists nobody works in a vacuum. Who were some of her contemporaries, creative contemporaries, that she was excited by, moved by, or maybe influenced by?
Yeah, so Bapsi was a storyteller, and most of her childhood was spent reading. It was a lonely childhood, and she read all the Western writers, Dickens to Jane Austen and all of those. And then later on, when she became famous and she became Bapsi Sidhwa, she was in New York. She had all the greatest fellowships, where the top writers, we are on camera, but Mr. Rushdie, who at one time doubted.
Say it, Bapsi would have.
Yeah. So people like Salman Rushdie they were not her influencers, but they were her contemporaries, let's put it. And people, they were like writers, and I've been very, very lucky that I got to film not only Bapsi extensively, then I filmed her very quiet, hidden Zoroastrian community, and then I expanded and filmed another very quiet community of writers and publishers. People like Liz Calder, Caroline Dane, Nelly Khotza, all over Europe, all over Pakistan, Penguin, India. We have it, as he would always say, darling, how many films are you going to make? I hope that answers your question. And we can talk more about names.
Wonderful. As I often say, time is the only enemy. So, a round of applause for this panel, please. You all have exactly 45 minutes, 35 minutes to mingle, take pictures, discuss whatever we need to. Our next event is the Class Worker film from Pakistan, and Usman Riaz is in the audience. Usman Riaz and Abu Bakr flew in from LA, Sacramento, California, New York for Usman. There will be a post-film Q&A with both of them in Matchbox 2, and we're gonna have Zoe Vikarji. पर उससे पहले जो एक और शख्स है इस कमरे में, अगर रंग को 4 लोगों ने उठाया हुआ है ना, 4 सुतून पे है, तो उसमें से जो एक सुतून है वो कामरान शेख। So, Kamran Sheikh, Farhan Bhai, Sadia, and Yusuf. These were the crazy enough people in September of 2023 to get on a Zoom call to start a new festival. So, a lot more to discover. Check out these posters from last year. Gunjal, produced by none other than Nighat Shah, won the Audience Choice Award.
If you haven't seen it yet.
Activism, if you want to see activism, that's that, right? And Lamia's poem, right? UPF's first animated film won the Grand Jury Award last year for the best film. And then Holi Kahuli and The After and Desi Standard Time Travel and Live Like Harris, right? So we're starting this, with these posters, we're starting a tradition of recognizing every year the winners of the last year. So, absolutely. And I think we're going to come up with something just for Bapsi that will always be there. So thank you very much. Enjoy your time. And as soon as the announcement goes, we're all going to go back to Matchbox 2. That's when we'll be playing the Glassworker. Thank you.